First of all, introduction. So I'm Deborah Ives. I started Solo in Style about 8 years ago, just really as to build a community for over 50 ladies, solo ladies who were traveling alone. And really just as a way for us all to kind of share our experiences and our tips and help each other. And as of today, in fact, we have now grown our communities about 550,000 women worldwide, which is mind-blowing. So there's a lot of us out there, which I think is really fantastic. And so one of the themes that comes up a lot in the group, and for those who are in the group a lot, you'll see this, is sort of this fear of traveling, this fear of making the first steps. And so I'm really happy to introduce Lynn Novatt to you, who is a professional life and leadership coach. And maybe Lynn, you can introduce yourself,
Yes.
and then we can talk about what we're going to cover.
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Lynn Novatt, and I am a professional life and leadership coach based in Santa Monica, California, in the United States. And yeah, I'm so excited to be here with everyone. And I just want to acknowledge Deborah for creating this group of 550,000 members. That's amazing, right? So yeah, I am a solo entrepreneur and a solo female traveler. So when I saw this group, I was like, wow, there's a group for people like us. How cool is that? And immediately joined and just was so taken by the posts that I read. I'm delighted, whether it's people talking about their challenges and their fears and also their wins.
Right.
And it's such a supportive group with tips, but also like when somebody is challenged, and you know, the relatability of that other women are posting about, or you know, the cheering on of people. It's amazing to have this community. So I really kudos to you, Deborah, for
Thank you. But it's really everybody. I honestly think there is not I don't think we have questions really that go unanswered. And it always makes me smile when somebody will ask about some very remote corner of the world. And somebody, well, I'm there in there's 30 or 40 replies, 10 people are there at the moment, 5 are going there next week, 3 have been like the week before. And he's, good grief, we are everywhere. It's fantastic. So I think the purpose of today really is just to talk about, because we've all been there. I have certainly been there, and I think you have as well. And when you find yourself thinking about your first solo trip, or thinking, starting to mull over, or feeling like you really want to do it, and there is this massive feeling of fear, and it can strike in so many different ways. And I remember, I think I'm like a lot of ladies in the group. I found myself suddenly divorced, and I had 2 tickets for a trip I didn't want to lose, so I just went on my own, and I was petrified. I remember sitting at the airport thinking, what are you doing? I'm never going to come back. Oh my goodness me, just clutching onto my passport for dear life. So I have been through all these experiences that I think everybody shares, and it got better. And then after COVID, it kind of reared its head again. So I think, it comes and goes. It's not necessarily something that you beat once and then away you go. So I think, I mean, I know that you've traveled on your own, and I don't know if you've had similar experiences, Lynn,
Yes.
but
Yes. I mean, I can remember my first solo trip. I was probably in my late 20s, and I had planned a trip to Australia with my boyfriend, and he backed out at the 23rd hour. So there I was, I'm still going to do this, a lot of fear. But I remember distinctly, I was going to be staying in someone's house. A friend of mine's sister had offered her home, which was not like really in Sydney proper, but like a little suburb or something outside of Sydney. And it was going to cost me $100 to take a taxi there or something. And I was like, I don't want to spend that much money to take a taxi. So I figured out how to take a bus there.
Right.
And like, that experience was so transformative.
I know, I know.
As soon as I got to the house and I realized, oh my gosh, I just did that myself, took
Right.
public transportation there. So that stayed with me for a really long time. Obviously, I mean, that was a long time ago. So yeah, yeah.
But but you raise I mean, we've got so many things to talk about. We can jump in with some specifics, but I do think also, and maybe I'm wrong because, and I'm very happy for anyone to want, if they want to make their comments too. I do think as we get older, certainly my experience is that I have a little bit more fear as I get older, and maybe we can talk about that. But maybe we should start with, why is it that, going on a trip or planning a bucket trip or doing something that you've had your sights on, why is that so important, and so meaningful to us that, what is it about that makes us really want to do it?
Yes, 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 yes. Well, I think a bucket list trip, it's this goal of a trip, right? It's something that we have in our mind, a trip that we really want to do. So we have this goal out there, and we possibly take little steps, right, in order to reach that goal.
Right.
For me, I had a bucket list trip for about 20 years that I was thinking about. And I could never do it because prior to becoming a life coach, I was a middle school teacher.
Right.
And I wanted to go to New England in the fall to see the leaves.
Right.
Never could I do that because I was always in school at that time. So it had been on my mind for so long, at this goal. And so then when we reach that goal after having that trip out there, it's this feeling of accomplishment.
Right. Right. And that's a theme that comes in the group a lot. And I'm sure, everybody who's on here will have seen these comments from ladies who say, thank you so much for your help. Here are some photos of me, wherever it might be. You were helpful with your tips in me planning my trip and getting me there. And now I can just say, I feel so fantastic. I feel so empowered. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just do it. So there feels like there's this, not 100%, but certainly this overwhelming feeling of, once you do it, oh my goodness. And I remember I felt amazing after I'd done my first trip. It's like, oh my God, I can conquer the world. So,
Yeah.
so it's really, I do completely understand why it does feel so, why we are so empowered. And I think there are two forms of fear. And again, anybody on the call, please chime in. But I feel as though there's this fear of getting started. This, I know I want to do it, but oh my goodness, I can't do it. I can't do it on my own, and all this anxiety. And then there's also the fear of once you've booked it, like a week out, 2 weeks out. And a lot of ladies come in the group and say, I've booked this trip. I really want to go, but I'm thinking of canceling because I'm paralyzed with fear. So maybe you can talk to both of those. I don't know if it's the same or if it's different, or why we would
Right.
feel like that.
Yeah, yes. Well, first I want to acknowledge Christine.
Yeah.
Yes, my trip was everything that I had hoped for. And I spent a lot of time, you know, thinking about the trip, obviously, like 20 years. And then when I started planning the trip, it was a very slowed down process of, I got a big map from AAA. I put like little uh, colored Post-its of all the place I wanted to go, and just took a lot of time. And I think that was helpful in sort of alleviating some of that fear, like, the planning of it and the visualization of it. Right. So thank you. And I'm just curious from the women in the group, if you can just put in the chat or something, if you have, and I'm going to answer your questions about fear, Deborah, but I'm just wondering if women out there have some sort of a bucket list trip
Right.
that they have been thinking of or considering, but have just not yet been able to, pull the trigger on. Can you drop that in the chat, perhaps?
Right. Actually, Marzena or Mazina, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly. you've just expressed why you love to travel on your own, and it's the freedom of not having to compromise your goals. And I think we can all really identify with that. But and clearly you've overcome your fears because you're traveling on your own, or at least I'm assuming that you are. So, you know, maybe you had fears to start with and you've overcome them. But South Africa, here's one. Look, Christine is wanting to go to South Africa.
Yep.
Beautiful place. Beautiful
Yeah,
place.
yeah. And there might be, I don't know if there's any fear coming up for you about going to South Africa, because that is far away and a lot of things happening over there. Just scheduled a solo. Wow, fantastic.
You ladies are seeing, look at, I feels like a lot of you are just getting on with it, which is great.
Everywhere. Laura says everywhere is a bucket list trip.
Yes, I hear you, Rebecca.
You are in the right place, Laura.
Exactly, exactly. So
Uh,
maybe learning a language in Italy or France, some great destinations there. Fabulous.
yeah, yes. And you know, fear is it's with us pretty much all the time. I mean, it's part of our innate being to have fear because we want to survive. That's why we're here. We've survived, right? So sometimes fear can be a helpful thing, but fear is also, if anybody has heard of this acronym, false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. So it's a lot of in our thinking and in our minds about fear. But the thing, when we even just book that trip, that's where the transformation actually begins.
Right.
Just clicking the button on the computer screen. And I mean, I was recently booking my trip to Europe this summer and had this great, like, saw this great deal, being able to use my points, and I just was overcome with some, I'm not sure, I don't know, is this the right thing? And I didn't do it. Went back 3 or 4 days later, and it was gone.
I know. And then you just can kick yourself, can't you? You just, yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I have a client who's coming out to see me in Santa Monica for a 1 day full intensive. She lives across the country and she's getting a little wobbly because she has a fear of flying and this and that. And my encouragement to her is like, no, you need to do this. You need to come out here. Let's go.
Mhm.
Right? So because just her act of being able to overcome that, get on the plane. And there are strategies, right, that we can talk about
Right.
to help
Right.
with the fear.
Right. And so I know we've got that on our list of things to talk about. I'm just kind of scrolling through some of these comments and questions. Great comment from Belinda, part fear, part excitement. That is so true, because you just wonder where your fear stops, where excitement stops and fear takes over. But a very interesting one from Cher, saying that she had been traveling solo for many years and now is feeling overwhelmed. And I think it can come and go for some reasons. And I don't know whether it's to do with the destination that you're going to. Why would we feel safer in some places and not others? And it's back to this, how we imagine it, what we read,
Right,
what we think.
right. And also fear has a lot to do with our ego, right? Our ego wants to keep us safe and secure. And here we are, like, you know, I could stay in my little safe bubble of Santa Monica and just be fine, right? But transformation, empowerment, confidence, all of these things happen outside our comfort zone.
Right.
So that's a big part of why when women, especially women, I think, go on these trips and they come out the other side feeling empowered, it's because they've gotten out of their comfort zone and they've
Right.
actually experienced what that transformation is like.
Right. And I mean, there are, we'll talk about techniques because this is important for us to just all kind of help each other on how we can feel the fear and do it anyway. But there's certainly a feeling of overwhelm, and sometimes it's a sort of overwhelm of planning it all, and you just and there's certainly people that can help you with that. But then there's the overwhelm of not being able to imagine it all properly. So then you feel anxious because you can't picture yourself in these certain situations. And here's an interesting one from Terry, who is worried about not being able to fulfill all of her expectations in one lifetime. That's an interesting situation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
I would encourage Terry, like, like, how can you kind of slow down a little bit, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
be in the present moment. It's so important to be in the present moment
right,
because we get so excited or so overwhelmed, and that's because we're like the overwhelm is going out way into the future, right? So
right,
if we can kind of get grounded, stay in the present moment, take small little steps,
right.
whether it's about the planning, right? So that overwhelm can be dissipated a little bit. Yeah. And
And
I love that because like nervousness, nervousness and excitement are kind of along the same thing. It's like how you're thinking about
right,
it.
right, right.
Mhm. Yeah.
And Terry, just to answer your question about overwhelm on the actual planning, which is kind of slightly off topic for today, but if you look on my YouTube channel, I have two webinars that I did with another lady probably about 2 years ago on exactly how to get going with the logistics. So actually the sort of how to do it. So lots of tips there for how to choose your hotel, how to choose where to go, how to choose a flight, all of those practical things. You can find that on my YouTube channel, just Deborah Ives. You can find in YouTube. So there are lots of helpful kind of guides there. And again, in the group, if you have time, and I know it can be overwhelming just looking in the group because there's so many comments, but lots of ladies share their, how they did it, how they planned it, and they have shared, apps that they used or tools that they used. So some people love the planning. I love the planning. That to me is part of my experience, and some people just really don't like it at all, and I totally get that.
Yeah. So Deborah, like, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
Like about the planning, you say you love the planning.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that? What is it that you love about the planning?
Oh, I think it's the anticipation, isn't it? It's just that's when you start to visualize. So, so I really enjoy that a lot, and I really love, looking at different places to stay, looking at different kind of types of accommodation. I really enjoy reading reviews online. I really enjoy looking at other people's experiences, and it's then that whole. Some people are very spontaneous and they'll book something and go the next week. And I do personally try to book things a little bit further out. So I love having all of that to look forward to. But
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I
yeah,
agree. I
yeah,
mean, there's two different experiences, right? And so sometimes when I'm traveling, I am a planner. So I agree with everything you said about, that's where the excitement comes in. That's where like imagining yourself in this particular Airbnb or hotel. And that's great. And then I often will leave because I think this is really important for kind of building confidence and the empowerment is like leaving some spontaneity in there
right,
too,
right, right.
right? Because that's exciting, and who knows what will happen when you kind of give yourself maybe a couple days where you haven't
Yeah.
exactly planned everything. Yeah.
That's a really good point. And being cautious and sensible, but allowing yourself to be perhaps slightly more open than you would be maybe in
Exactly.
your own environment, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a way of getting out of our comfort zone, right? If you are a person who tends to have to plan everything and control everything, what would it be like just to like 5%, give yourself 5% leeway in being a little bit more open?
Right.
We're not such a planner. Christine, thank you for putting Deborah's YouTube
Yeah, and
channel up.
somebody's asking for, yeah, I'm afraid it is just called, well, yeah, I'm just getting the link now. Somebody's asking for, I don't know how I rename I'm putting it in.
Okay, so Laura is asking about you cover a lot of geography, or do you focus in one area? That is Laura's dilemma.
Right, yeah. Well, I think it depends, doesn't it, on where you're going. I think
Yes.
if I can fly to Europe from Canada, do I bounce around or focus? I mean, these are really more sort of things on how you would plan. And I mean, in Canada, the distances are huge, just like they are everywhere else. I think it depends on what you're wanting to achieve, doesn't it? Whether you want to have an immersive experience in one country or one city, or whether you really just want to kind of skim over the surface and then make a point of coming back. Your distances that you're traveling are huge. So I like to, well, that's not true, actually. I was going to say I like to kind of go to one place and stay there a bit longer. But it depends on where I'm going. It really does. And so I think this is why you have to really kind of think about each of your trips fairly
Yeah,
carefully.
and it's from my perspective, it's a matter of also experimentation,
Right.
right? Like see what you like to do and then take it from there. I mean, I tend to, when I went to New England, I had never been there before, so I wanted to see a lot of different places. So it was kind of spending and New England is so small, right? So you
Right.
can drive so easily, but spending 3 or 4 days in one state, then moving on to the next state. But I have for the last 6 years gone to Slovenia
Right.
and just plopped myself down there in Ljubljana, which is the capital of Slovenia, and I just love it.
Yeah.
I pretend I'm a European for the summer, and it brings me so much joy
Right.
that, and that's the other thing, like just talking about joy and what brings you joy when you're traveling. Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think the actual, in terms of anxiety, I think perhaps, or fear, I think perhaps one of the areas that I feel the most difficult to navigate, and it kind of comes back to this question about, do you stay put or do you move around? And depending on where you are, of course. Sometimes the logistics of moving around, if you're on your own, can be quite overwhelming. Like
right,
I'm going to Spain in 2 weeks' time, and I'm doing it all by train. And whilst I'm not scared, already I'm like, oh my God, I need to get on the right train. I don't speak Spanish. You have all of that going through your mind. So the actual moving around can be sometimes a bit that is sort of makes you most anxious. And
right,
depending where you are, again, of
right.
course, it's all about the language, but that fear, the fear of getting lost or the fear of not getting to where you're going to go. And it's all, of course, in the planning and
Yeah, so here's like a question for the group. Have you ever gotten lost or missed a train
right.
while traveling? Like just to, yes, getting lost. Okay,
Yeah, it's
great.
true.
Sure.
That is a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, I once got on a train in Spain going the wrong way.
Yeah. I do that
You
in
know,
London, actually, but that's just, and
yes.
I'm supposed to know where I'm going. Yeah.
And the thing is though, like waiting for people to respond to that question. The thing is, like, here you are now on this webinar. So even
Yeah.
though you may have gotten lost or missed a transit or something, you survived,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And each time we do it, we learn, don't we? Or at least we hope we learn. Not always, but we hope that we do. Yeah. That you just kind of
Right.
realize
Yeah.
that.
And I love Christine saying it was no big deal. Yeah, I missed a flight.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, um,
You just have to
Yeah,
deal with it, don't you? And I think the
I-
fear bit is that whole like, but you're dealing with it on your own. And that is, I think, the sense of anxiety, isn't it? Whereas if you were in a group or if you were somebody else, you would at least have someone to
right,
say, right, what shall we do? But you don't have that.
right,
So it's like, right, what am I going to do?
right. But when
It's
you're
that much,
dealing, yeah, when you're dealing with it on your own though, and then you make it through the other side, what
yeah,
kind of feeling of accomplishment is that? Like you've become your own leader in your
right,
life.
yeah,
You haven't relied on somebody else to be the leader. You've been
right,
the leader.
right. And
So,
but yeah, sorry.
yeah, so Deborah, going back to like what you were talking about in Spain, that you're starting to already feel a little overwhelmed.
Mhm.
It's like this kind of moves into maybe some tools or
Right.
strategies
Yeah,
that
yeah,
help me
definitely.
is can you visualize yourself? Can you see yourself at the train station?
Mhm.
And maybe you don't even know what the train station looks like, but you've been to train stations in
Right,
Europe before, right?
right,
Or you can pull up pictures of trains. Can you
right,
visualize yourself there? Can you visualize yourself calmly, patiently waiting for your train?
mhm.
Can you see yourself like looking at the train schedule, looking at your phone that maybe you have the train schedule on? And this is a tool. Some people may, think this is kind of weird, but our consciousness doesn't really know what's real and what's not real. So you like putting that out there, imagining yourself having that positive experience of getting the train can help your nervous system. And when you are there are tips to be more grounded in yourself, breathing,
Right,
making sure that your feet are like firmly on
right.
the platform of the station, all of these things. Just slow it down, slow it down.
So the slow it down is a big one, isn't it? Because I don't know about anybody else, but the minute I get into a slightly sort of difficult or testing situation, your mind starts going a million miles an hour. Then whatever you're reading, you misread because you're not
Exactly.
concentrating. So it's that whole slow it down, take your time, and
Exactly.
and plan ahead. Look, Janice has got a really great tip about having been burnt. Missing flights to make sure she gets to the airport the night before. So there's lots of practical tips that you can do, but that general calm, and I'm not very good at that, I have to say. I really struggle with that.
Well, and I mean, you hit it, right? You hit the nail on the head there, Deborah, because when we are in a state of overwhelm and anxiety takes over, our brain shuts down.
Yeah, yeah,
So we can't figure things out then.
I know.
We're
Yeah,
really learning some calming our nervous system. And it's really so simple yet so profound. Just breathing,
right,
just taking some slow, deep breaths,
right.
inhaling through our nose, exhaling. We can do it like right now. Right now, we can just do a little breathing, if the ladies on the call are up for something like that.
There's a lot of people agreeing with the breathing, so I think it's
Yeah.
resonating. I feel as though, yes, we all know we need to do it, right? It's just actually doing it because oh yes, yeah,
Yeah. There's something about just taking our fingertips
yeah,
and very slowly rubbing your fingertips together, feeling the ridges of your fingerprint on each finger. This is a fantastic calming, getting centered kind of tool. Taking one hand and rubbing the palm of your other hand very slowly. You can do this anywhere. You can do this while you're sitting for your plane if you're a person
mhm,
who's anxious about flying,
right,
right? You can do this if you're having an interaction with a shopkeeper or an Airbnb host that isn't going smoothly, right?
mm,
So, yeah.
That's a great technique. And Janice makes a really good point, which is when we are traveling solo, one of the good things is we are not having to deal with other people's frustration and anxiety.
Right,
We're just
right,
dealing with our own, and sometimes that's enough, right? So
right.
my sister, I shouldn't say this about my sister because she'll be upset if she sees this, but she knows when I travel with her, she gets very anxious and very stressed, and then I feel like I take that on, and it makes me less clear in sort of my planning, and so I try and calm her down, and then I can calm myself down, and then we're fine. But yeah, that's a really good point, Janice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Or Deborah, like calming yourself down first.
Right. Yeah, your own oxygen mask right before you.
Exactly. That's what they say on the plane. It
Yeah, yeah,
sounds,
yeah, yeah.
uh-huh,
True.
uh-huh.
It's true. And so those are some great techniques. So thank you for sharing. And I'm going to really remember that because there is something so calming. And there was also a comment about speaking to the airline if you're a nervous flyer, which I thought was a really great
Mhm.
comment to make too, because I know a lot of people are nervous about flying. So do you have any
Yeah,
other?
and I like what Betty says, you can only control yourself.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
so
right.
true.
Yeah.
Like your sister's stuff is your sister's stuff, and
Right. Yeah,
you know,
I
so
know, I know. But so do you have any other sort of practical tips? I mean, you and I have spoken quite a few times. I mean, you shared your idea on stretch goals, which I thought was really great, and starting small. And I don't know if that's something you want to share with the groups, kind of can help a little bit on overcoming any sort of fear and anxiety.
yes, yes, yes. So again, like when sometimes when we go into that overwhelm or fear, it's because we're going so far out into the future and the goal seems so big. But if we slow it down and we just take baby steps toward that goal, right? That's a great way to kind of alleviate some of the overwhelm. So I call it I learned this technique. It's called 3-foot tosses.
Right.
3-foot tosses. So just imagine like you're on a basketball court, and sometimes they have those contests where you're at half court from where the basket is, and they pull somebody from the audience and they say, okay, if you can make this basket, you're going to win $500,000.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's a long way to do that. And so the idea of a 3-foot toss is like you get closer to the basket. If you're only 3 feet away from the basket, your chances of making the ball in the net are so much higher.
Right.
So it's the same thing with any kind of goal. Taking these 3-foot tosses, these small steps to achieving this big trip that we have planned is a way to kind of just calm it down. And when we accomplish each goal we accomplish, we feel great. We feel empowered. We feel confident.
Right.
Okay, let me take another little step towards my trip goal. So that's one strategy. Something that I also like to do is imagining my next day. So I will often do this if I'm traveling or even getting ready for this webinar. Like last night, I was picturing myself, here in front of the computer, picturing myself talking to you, imagining who would show up. So that's something that people can do when they're traveling. You probably will know where you might be going the next day, or you have an idea of what your plan is. So kind of visualizing yourself being there, easily getting there, having a great time while you're there. How do you want to be when you're there? So I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. And I think, and for me, it's we're going back to like the starting in the planning when you start to visualize yourself there. And I mean, and I think we can. we can choose to make things easier. And it's back to perhaps one of the comments that we had earlier, and I can't remember who made it, about whether you'd go to one place or you move around. Probably a little bit easier or less overwhelming if you're starting out on your solo travels to go to one place, maybe even go in a group of solo ladies, solo women who want to travel together. Or to go to a place where you know that you'll be staying and there'll be some kind of community and you'll be part of that, and then you feel empowered.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for how do you want to make it kind of easy for yourself to do also, so that you will do it.
Right. Yeah, and so that might be something that makes it easier for you to get going. A lot of women take baby steps. They might go to the theatre on their own in their own town. They might go away for a weekend. They might go out to dinner on their own. All of these things, you know, it's like, well, once I can do that, I can do anything. I just have to say thank you, Christine is sorting out my YouTube channel for me. Thank you. Giving me tips on how to rename it. Thank you very much. I will look at that. But it is, you know, we can make, sometimes things feel very daunting. Some countries feel more daunting than others. And I don't know why that is. It's because perhaps we've read something about it, or we just have this innate sense that it might be a little bit more difficult for us to get around, or perhaps we feel like the attitude to women traveling solo might be less kind of conducive to us going on our own. So I think there are ways that, you know, we can navigate all of these. If we want to go to these places, personally, if I want to go to somewhere where I feel it's a little bit trickier for me to go, I will go in a group of solo women traveling together, and other places I'm very happy to go on my own. And it's just a matter of choosing how best to do that so you feel comfortable, and then once you do it, you can just keep going.
Right. Once you do that, once, you know, or even if you're in this place, maybe with a group, because there was some discomfort, how do you then, once you're in the group, is there a possibility to stretch yourself?
Right.
You're there to do something maybe solo while you're there, or even like an adventurous or something with the group, but that would be a way to stretch.
Yeah. And it is just that stretching. And sometimes we don't want to stretch. Sometimes we literally just want to kind of fly and flop. No pressure, nothing, just take that time, and that everything is absolutely fine. And so Sherry's asking about the planning. Do you recommend buying the ticket first or places to stay? That's a tough one, isn't it? Depends where you're going, I think. I normally look at the places to stay first to make sure I've got some. It's hard to know which way round.
Yeah. I usually
That's not
buy
very
my
helpful.
ticket first.
Sorry.
Yeah, I buy my ticket first because
You buy your tickets, yeah. So someone, Laura, says she's reads foreign affair travel advisories. I agree, and yeah, sometimes you have to be a little bit cautious of where you're going. There are physical reasons why you would not want to go there, and your government does not support you going there. So it's always good to check those out. Yeah,
and it's always good to talk to the locals, or if you're staying at a hotel, talk to the concierge. Is it safe for me to walk around at night here?
Right.
Things like that. Just being smart, right? Like slowing down, being smart.
Yeah. And Judy, that's a great question about health challenges. And I think that's something that comes up a lot in the group, about either a fear of becoming sick whilst traveling, or a fear of being incapacitated, having a fall or doing something. And so first of all, I would just say everybody, in my view, should have travel insurance before they go, so that if you do have an emergency, you're covered. And then you have the normal practices of making sure that you're informing people of where you're going, your family, your friends, so that they can keep in touch with you, which is a lot easier now that we have our phones and we have WhatsApp and all the rest of it. And it has happened that, you know, it does happen that people get ill, and it's happened to me too. And depending on where you're staying, if you're in a hotel, then you will always find the hotels very helpful generally, and they can call local doctors. And but it is something that we have to see.
Are there women out in the group who this has happened to. Maybe if they're willing, they can put that in the chat and like, how did you handle it?
Christine's asking if I use World Nomads, Christine. I think they're really good. Well,
Oh,
no,
that's
my travel insurance. But it varies by country, and it varies also by what you want. So look, someone, so I don't quite know what your name is, but you've had a sinus infection in Fiji. Oh, that sounds I go all the way to Fiji and I'm going anywhere and having a sinus
I
infection.
mean, and did everything work out okay? What happened? You know, I had a friend who went on a
Hotel,
kind of
yeah.
like a meditation retreat in Mexico and had shingles while she was there.
Right.
So she had to go to but she figured it out. She went to some clinic. She had to get a taxi. Nobody would go with her to some clinic.
Right.
Oh, it was a bit away. Nobody spoke English. And, it got figured out. And so these are also stories that one remembers, right? And how empowering, like I was able to take care of myself. I was able to get like some medication and,
Food
oh,
poisoning.
food poisoning is no fun, right?
Yeah. Oh, and there are lots of ladies in the group. Some of them are such troopers. They'll show pictures of where they've fallen and broken their ankle. I mean, everybody, I think overwhelmingly everybody ends the kind of story with they've got help, they've figured it out, they've been safe, whatever. But we just have to be a little bit prepared for it, don't we, in terms of making sure.
But I wouldn't, I mean, my encouragement would be to still go
Oh,
if
for
there's
sure.
a trip you want to go on and something, and just kind of maybe put it out there like that you're gonna do your best to be
Right.
safe and healthy, and there's a lot to be said about intentionality,
Right.
having intentions.
And also, and this is not something I do, but I am thinking I might like to start doing it, is practicing journaling and gratitude whilst I'm away. Because I think stopping in the moment and thinking about exactly what you have achieved or what you've done or what you're experiencing and writing that down, I feel that must be very empowering moving.
That's brilliant, brilliant, Deborah. Every night in your journal,
Yeah.
it's like, what was successful? Name 3 things that were successful today.
Yeah.
3 things that I have gratitude for that happened today. 3 things that I want to acknowledge myself for
Right.
today.
That's a good one, isn't it? Because sometimes we can be so hard on
We
ourselves.
are so hard on ourselves. We
Right.
are so hard on ourselves. And just the fact that we have gotten ourselves to this
Right.
place where we're at is acknowledgement. Yeah. And doing this kind of practice every day is life-changing, transformative. And I have a luck practice.
Oh, I like that.
So I think about what was something that like was really lucky that happened to me today.
Right. Because we all experience that, don't we? We happen to be in a place and we just see the most incredible sunset, or somebody was showing, we happened to walk past a performance of something that happened to be there. We had no, whatever it is,
Yeah,
luck.
whatever it is. When I was in London, I looked the correct way before I walked into the street, right?
Right.
Or I dropped my credit card, but like fortunately I realized it very quickly and I saw it on the floor. Or,
Right.
because Deborah, the thing is, what we appreciate appreciates. So if I've realized since I started this luck practice that I'm more lucky than I ever have been,
So
right?
when you do
So
that practice, you make notes of how you've been lucky during the day, is that right? Right.
and then in my journal at night, in the moment, I like, wow, thank you, luck, for that was a
Yeah.
really lovely thing. And then every night in my journal, doing this like ritualistic exercise of gratitude, luck, acknowledgement. Yeah.
Now, this is it. You heard it here first. I am going to start journaling when I really should. Because you forget so quickly, don't you? And taking photographs is one thing, but you're not actually acknowledging how you're feeling at the time that you're taking them or what you're experiencing. It's just, wow, this is beautiful. I want to capture it. So yeah,
Yes.
I think that's a great thing to do. Oh,
Yeah.
manifestation, gratitude. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, we're all just reading in there. So yeah, absolutely good.
Yeah, whatever the language is for you that works for you, of course.
Yeah. So this is great. Thank you so much, everyone, for kind of sharing your thoughts and participating. We're sort of coming slightly towards the end, and I'm just wondering if there's anything in particular anybody who's on the call would like us to get into that we haven't covered. Please just drop a comment in, or if there's anything, Lynn, that you think you'd really like to share that we haven't gotten to yet.
Kind of looking at my notes here, and yeah, maybe if there are outstanding questions from.
Oh, so here's a great one from Anu. Yeah. I agree with you totally. When you experience the kindness of strangers on your travels, that is just something beautiful, isn't it? And luck is one way, or however you want to express it, but it does happen. And I actually, I always try to be helpful in my own city, because there are people who come unstuck in London who are traveling through, and I stop and try and help. And yeah,
Right.
I think yeah, we all encounter the help and kindness from other people, and it's just so, you just feel so great about it,
Yeah,
don't you?
paying it forward. That's what that is called. Yes, for sure.
Paying it forward, yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I was coming back last week from our first soloist, our Tuscan getaway, and this poor, that sounds really awful now. This couple were in front of me checking into the plane, and they'd had a terrible day, and they had been moved around by British Airways, and they were supposed to be going to Heathrow, which is in the west of London, and instead they had been sent to the City Airport, which is the east of London, and they had no idea how they were going to cross the city.
Mm.
I did actually go way out of my way to help them. And I just thought, people have done this for me when I've been traveling. And so when we got off, I waited for them, and I took them to the train station, and I went out of my way to make sure they got on the right line. And we had a fantastic chat on the way in, and I hopped off my train and they carried on. People have done that for me, so I'm happy to pay it forward. It makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Well, isn't that what traveling is also about? Making connections with
Yeah,
people
yeah,
along the
yeah.
way.
Someone's
I'm
asking about tips for London. Yes, please do. Ask away. I'm very happy to help. You can email me. So, do you have my email address? Let me put it in here. We should share our contact details, actually, and that's a very good segue perhaps into so there you go, that's me. I think I'm sending direct messages somehow, and I'm trying to
You need to
all in
send it
the
to the
group. Yeah,
meeting group chat. Yeah,
yeah.
go up
So
to the very, very top.
let me do that. Yeah. By all means, ask away about London. I'm very happy to help. Yeah. And I know that you, as we're coming up to sort of the top of the hour, I know that you were wanting to offer your
Yes,
professional
yes,
help and
yes,
services
yes.
too.
Exactly. So, people on the call, the fabulous women on the call, you may have gotten everything that you want from this webinar. And that's totally fine. And if there's more that you want, as far as any of the topics we talked about, conquering the fear and overwhelm, how to stretch oneself, tips and strategies, I'm willing to offer one-on-one private 90-minute coaching sessions with the first 5 people who reach out to me. And I will put my email in the chat. It is my name at gmail.com. So I'll drop that in there. Or if you want some resources or have further questions,
Right.
you know, can reach out to me. Totally open and willing to do that. I just acknowledge everyone who showed up and would be
Absolutely. We've got a question here too about feeling uncomfortable about searching for gluten-free food. I mean, that's a very specific thing, but I can imagine how nervous you must feel about that. It's difficult, especially when you're trying to do that in a foreign language. And I'm not sure I know the best way around that. And maybe you've kind of figured it out yourself. But I do feel as though some countries are more gluten-free than others, and more, even when we were in Italy, we could find gluten-free pasta and things like, which I find encouraging, because obviously some of these national dishes are definitely not gluten-free. But yeah, I'm not sure I can offer an awful lot of insight on gluten-free traveling, but I can totally understand how you might be concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean, for a situation like that, oftentimes I like to go gluten-free as well.
Right.
So you know what kinds of foods are gluten-free, right? And I think it would just be a lot of clear communication if you're in the restaurant, maybe talking to the manager of the restaurant as well as the waiter, if it's like telling them it's an allergy, not a preference.
Oh, look at that, a great suggestion. There are gluten-free cards you can buy to describe celiac disease in lots of different languages. Brilliant. And
That's
that's a really good idea, actually, of just having whatever country you're going to, having your phrases written out on a piece of
right,
card. Yeah.
right. No, that's great.
Or
Um,
cooking for yourself, that's another one from Kim. Yeah. So there's lots of, yeah. See,
yeah,
I honestly feel like there's always a solution.
yes,
Somebody
right.
always knows what it is. It's great.
Everything
I
is
love it.
figured
I
outable.
love it.
Everything,
Yeah.
everything is figure outable from
Yeah.
that's Marie Forleo, if anybody knows Marie Forleo out in the audience. But
Yeah.
look at somebody stays in condos so they can like control
Cook for
their own
yourself. I
food.
know.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
easy to be gluten-free in Europe. I agree. I think we're pretty, and I'm sure in the US and Canada is, I don't know why. I don't think lots of other countries are. I'm sure you can do it, but it is in Europe, certainly.
You know, somebody dropped in the chat what they love about solo
Oh,
traveling. So
right. Yeah, but
Carrie Sullivan. So traveling solo has meant for me that I'm much more open to meeting and connecting with other people. I would love to hear if people want to drop in the chat what solo traveling means to them. Just as I'll
yeah, it's
put
a
the
really good question. That's a
yeah.
really good question. And so often in the group we get the comments that, you know, that people are very scared and perhaps anxious that they're going to be lonely when they're traveling solo, and that they literally will just sit on their own for the whole time. And if people want to do that, of course, that's absolutely fine. But I think one of the biggest comments that comes back is, you know, you meet a lot more people when you're traveling on your own. And if you want to join in, you are included in things, you get chatting to people. And I find that I have met so many people traveling solo that I probably would not have met if I had been traveling with
Yes,
my
yes.
former partner. So that's me, and yeah, is one thing Christine's commented.
Yeah. And for me, I tend to kind of have an introverted personality, but
Right.
when I travel solo, then it gives me the opportunity to shift that introvertedness a little bit by meeting people. Like that's like a stretch. That's like a little stretch. It's always great to stretch ourselves, just, even a little bit.
I think a lot of overwhelming comments too about being able to do what you want to do, making your own memories,
Yeah,
looking
right.
after yourself. Look at that, I'm stronger.
Resilient. I can do the hard things. Yep, yep. I love that.
Sharon's got a question about, I'm worried about safety, but meeting up in public places is likely the answer to that. I think, I think again, it's just being careful, of course. I think you mentioned that, Lynn, finding out if it's safe to walk at night, and if not, making sure that you're staying somewhere. I mean, I was so cocky after my first solo trip, I was so, oh my God, this is fantastic. I'm loving it. And then my second solo trip was a complete disaster because I went to the wrong place. I couldn't speak a word of the language, and everything went wrong from beginning to end. And so at the end of that, I learned so much from that. So I think that is kind of to your point, Sharon. I hadn't done my research properly, and I just thought I could just go and, wander around freely, and I learned a lot. So you do have to.
Yeah, and I have some thoughts, Sharon, also, and it's kind of like, we all have our own inner wisdom. We all have that gut feeling. And sometimes as women, though, right, we're taught to be really nice or people pleasing and this and that. So my encouragement is, like, if you have any kind of feeling that this is not right in yourself, it's okay to say no.
Right.
It's okay not to do something that you don't want to do perfectly. Give yourself permission
That's
for
a really
that.
good point. That's a really good point, because you're right. We tend to just kind of don't want to make a fuss or want to people please. That's, yeah, trust your gut. Yeah, yeah. So Janice has just commenting, feeling grateful and amazed by surrounding. Yeah, boy. Oh, that's a great comment. Thank you for that.
Yeah, feeling alive. It does. Traveling does help us feel more alive, doesn't it?
Oh, just experiencing all the kind of wonder and all of the differences in the world that make us, so similar in many ways is fabulous.
Yes. Yes.
So this is wonderful. We're coming up to the top of the hour. I feel like, please, if there's anything left that you want us to talk about, happy to do that. Yes, I will be sharing a recording to this, a link to the recording.
Somebody asked if there was going to be like another
The
webinar.
one, yeah, sorry, I missed that actually. I saw it come in and then it came. So we could certainly do that.
Yeah, and I wonder kind of
Yeah,
what topics people might
yeah.
be further interested in.
Yeah, let us know, because there are so many people, women in our group who can share specialist subjects like Lynn, and obviously Lynn, you and I, we can talk about other things that we can do too, that can be useful to the community. So if there's anything in particular. But I always enjoy chatting, and I can talk about solo travel forever, but also hearing everyone's comments. Volunteer travel, so that's a good one. I have done that actually myself. I loved it, but yeah, that's a great one. I'm going to take a note. Thank you, Laura. I'm writing this down. We'll see if I can put together a session on volunteer travel. There's a lot of information about volunteer travel in the group as well. If you put that.
Because volunteer travel is being of service and also being able to serve ourselves by
Right.
being in another place. And actually, when one volunteers, it's like the volunteer gets so much value out of that. Then,
And also Terry's sharing that she worries about sharing travel details. I know, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what your concern is there. I mean, I don't, this is one of the reasons why in the group we don't really advertise individual meeting up, because I think we have to be very careful about who we're sharing our travel details with. But yes, I think we have to be just sensible and make sure that we're sharing it with the people who need to know, rather than sharing it with everyone. Yeah. Saving money. Yeah. So you might find some of that, Kim, in the how to travel solo section that we talked about earlier on my YouTube. We covered quite a lot. I did a whole session on house sitting, which is a great way of traveling inexpensively. So there's a whole webinar recording on how to house sit your way around the world, which might be interesting.
how fun would that be?
Packing. I've asked already, Carolyn. I asked in the group if we had an expert who wanted to share thoughts on how to pack. I am the worst packer. I can take everything with me and I need help. And nobody came back with any suggestions, but if you know anybody who you think might be helpful on packing. I will certainly organize that. Yeah, packing cubes is, I've just discovered packing cubes as well. So I think we're kind of reaching a natural end. So I would just like to say, Lynn, thank you so much. That was really, these hours just fly by, don't they? And we just, I
And
feel,
it was fun.
and thank you to everybody for joining in and sharing your thoughts, asking your questions. Really, really appreciate that. And and certainly I'll share the recording so you can go back if there's anything that you want to kind of go back and see. And you've got both our email addresses. Lynn has made her kind offer for 5 ladies who want to reach out privately for sessions. That would be, I think, interesting, I'm sure, to plenty of people. And anybody coming to London. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Enjoy if it's evening, enjoy your evening. If it's morning, enjoy your day and anything in between. And thank you very much.
And thank you, Deborah, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks so much. Yeah. Enjoy your walk. I know you're having a walk later on today. Enjoy your day. Thanks.
Ciao,
Thank
ciao.
you. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.